reminder, you cannot hold space for others unless you hold space for yourself. So let's tap in, just notice how radical. Notice what's going on. Notice any blocks, any contraction in the body. Notice any contraction in the mind, any particular thoughts, feelings, sensations that might be blocking abundance, might be blocking your alignment, might be keeping you from your calling, your purpose, which, by the way, feeling good is a part of, being in ease is a part of. Where do you feel any blocks? Any heaviness? Start to get used to feeling this form of intuition. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. All of the divine feminine archetypes and the way that they signpost our way home to deep collective wisdom we can all tap into. Yeah. Because there's your truth, there's my truth, and there's objective truth. So let's cultivate these tools of our intuition. Let's create relationships with these guides, with these source metaphors, so that we can steer our ships, the ships of our body, the ship of the earth, the ship of society, into greater alignment, greater flow, greater ease, greater abundance. This requires awareness. This requires mindfulness. This requires getting rid of distractions. This requires slowing the fuck down. Tara Brach says if you move half as fast, you'll notice twice as much. I'll take it a step further. If you remove half of the noise in your life, you will notice twice as much. How are you numbing? How are you escaping? How are you blocking? How are you getting in the way of your own innate wisdom? Because it is needed by the world. I need it. We all need it. We need to act on it. We feed it when we act on it. And it grows stronger, louder, and less can we ignore that still small voice that ain't still or small anymore. This shit is powerful, y'all. We are not messing around. Do not fear your own power. Let's step into it together because it is needed. This planet is dying. There is great grief to walk through bravely, to tap into a deep acceptance and a deep call to action. Yeah, that's what we are all about here. Okay, slightly get off my pedestal for just a half a second. Don't even worry about it. Once you're here, let me know. Welcome Claire, welcome Micah, welcome Shos. Who else is with us? You are so welcome here, beautiful souls. You are worthy, you are divine, you are whole. You belong here. You are not alone. Share your questions with me, your comments with me. Let's cultivate community together. Just a reminder, you can always make a donation, an exchange for my emotional labor here. And I hope to see you back next Tuesday, every Tuesday at this time. And if you would like to work with me, you can do so. You can book a free call. Did you know this? A free coaching call. If you've never worked with me, these 30-minute clarity calls are a great way to learn about my offerings, to learn more about divine feminine coaching, and to see if this could be a good fit for you. Does this resonate? Does this feel like a full body yes? All right, precious souls. Today, as I said, we are diving into all things divine feminine archetypes. I'm so excited. I mean, these could be like 4 separate sermons, but we're going to just do an overview and probably dive in a bit later. We're going to talk about Mama Earth as an archetype. We're going to talk about Muse, creative attraction energy as an archetype. We're going to talk about the goddesses, the medicine that they hold for us, the shadows they bring up for us, and also our bodies, women's bodies, cyclical wisdom, and what that holds for the entire human family and our planet right now. You know, no big deal. Take your notes. I'm going to give you some ways to activate and awaken each of these wisdom archetypes. But of course, your intuition is queen. Follow your gut, follow your heart above anything you would ever hear me say or anyone else. You are the one you've been waiting for. Yeah. Let's check in. Where have you felt some intuitive wisdom lately that you are not in alignment in the way that you need to be? Maybe it's a story of a time that you felt your gut telling you to do something and you were really afraid. Maybe it's just a feeling in the body, as we were exploring earlier. Yeah, how has it showed up for you lately? This intuition. Are you really in touch with the body? Is it coming through as a dream? Is it coming through as a clear voice in your mind? Maybe some combination? Claire says, my joints hurt today. I'm very sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're here. Is that your answer to the question? Maybe that had some intuitive hit in the joint pain. Pain can be a great intuitive teacher. Probably need to slow down. Yeah, that's the message. Maybe whatever you interpret it as. That has so much power. We got to trust ourselves. Yeah. Beautiful. Slowing down. What an invitation in this capitalist patriarchy. Am I right? Just slow down. It is like, if I could give everyone a gift in the whole world, it would be the gift of slowing down, the gift of slow living. So beautiful. Micah, just a general somatic feeling of unsettled and feeling myself tensing a lot. I was reflecting on this and had the thought, the world doesn't fit. The world doesn't fit. Ooh, so deep and interesting, Micah. I'm glad you didn't say I don't fit. Yeah. The world doesn't fit. That tension, unsettling. Ooh, yeah. Let's even peel it back another layer. What's the message? We can investigate these things, and there's so much wisdom. I think a lot of times we don't want to peel back the layers because we're like, I know if I know it, if I fully let it in, the wisdom, the message, I'm gonna have to act on it. Something's gonna have to change, and I'm comfortable where I am. And that's why joy is so important. That's why pleasure is so important. That's why acknowledging our wins is so important, because we have this negativity bias. And all the good things in our life can really fly under the radar. So let's bring them above the line of our awareness. Beautiful ones. Thank you for sharing your intuitive wisdom with us. What a gift. And I'm glad you're listening. I'm glad you're paying attention. Let's check in a bit here with the body, if that feels okay. Closing the eyes. Feeling the outline of the body, if such a thing exists. The pressure of where you are held in space. Letting the body breathe itself. Welcoming a gentle curiosity. Bringing the hands to the body if that's in your practice for a little grounding, a little nurturing, a little acknowledgement. I am here. Letting go of the day thus far. Using the breath, the awareness, the intention to clear any blocks, any misalignment or dis-ease. Maybe noticing a core need that needs to be met so you can really focus. Giving yourself space to do that now. Setting your intention for this hour together. How do you want to feel at the end of it? Breathing in deeply if that's in your practice to seal. Coming back to the room. Noticing something beautiful in your space. Yeah. Welcome back. Welcome back. Make regular visits to yourself. I hope you do this. Sometimes it looks like a 1-minute check-in. Other times a longer practice. A journaling session, whatever regular visits is for you. Make them. And this whole intuition thing is going to get a lot easier. This whole self-trust thing is going to get a lot less easy to ignore. All right. Archetypes. Here we go, y'all. Are you ready? Drop your questions in the chat. So, Carl Jung, Archetypes 101. So Carl Jung developed a lot of archetypes in his work to help people kind of understand their mental projections, to understand pieces of the human experience which are universal. Some people still swear by these, other people have a lot of questions about them. You know, A lot of people say he was incredibly misogynist, and there are definitely grains of salt to be taken with any kind of archetypal work. If you've read Women Who Run with the Wolves, this is an excellent book about folklore, fairy tales, and the wisdom that they hold for us that's passed along. The reason that they're universally recognized, understood, and meaning is made from them is because of this concept of archetypes, right? So I work with archetypes a lot in my coaching. We also use internal family systems to look at the different parts of ourselves. So you've heard me talk about future self. You've heard me talk about inner critic, inner child, right? The different parts of the self. Internal family systems, just to make it kind of useful, says that there are sort of these like child parts that need protecting within us. And then there are like these parent parts, the parts that do the protecting. And actually, inner critic is a parent part. Its intention often is to protect that vulnerable part of the self. And it doesn't have the best methods always, I'll say. So we can actually extend great love, appreciation, and compassion to even the really difficult parts like inner critic, with this understanding that, oh, you're here to protect something that needs protecting. But, I'll take it from here, or I'll pass the torch to the higher self, the future self, maybe. And there are some other external archetypes that we can work with if this is useful. You are whole, you are sovereign, you are divine. And if it's helpful, you can use these external archetypes to kind of help you sort through your shit, to help you feel grounded, resourced, not alone. I don't really want to offend anyone, but like God is an archetype of the divine within. So, being in this dominant Christian culture, you've probably heard this notion, or maybe it's been really deeply sown within you that God is outside of you. God is within you. Like this, the divinity is within. Basis of a lot of what we talk about here on self-love sermons. So this got me thinking, if the divine is within, but we really like to make it external, what can I call this? And I started calling it like a source metaphor. God is just a source metaphor. Goddess, universe. It's like a way to kind of make sense of what's always right here. This power that we can all tap into collectively. And so what has really been coming to me lately as part of this divine feminine work is that these divine feminine archetypes can be beautiful source metaphors to work with on our journey. Whether you identify as a woman or not, these are very useful to work with. And so some of them we're going to talk about tonight. Of course, divine feminine is taking those qualities traditionally associated with the feminine, the energy, not the gender, like receptivity, flexibility, nurturing, creativity, fierce protectiveness, flowiness, and abundance, and not only making them okay, like neutral, raising them from their often demonized and misunderstood state in a patriarchy, but making them sacred, making them divine. And I will say that in our capitalist patriarchy, divine masculine energy has been poisoned. You know, it has been completely, it's not a divine masculine patriarchy that we're living in. Okay. Because divine masculine is actually very life giving and, you know, very sovereign and good energy to work with. And divine feminine, I would say, is bent on helping us not only survive, but thrive. How to thrive upon this earth in these bodies. We need these qualities of what we talk about here: rest, pleasure, community, things that have been devalued for far too long. So why is this important in our current systems, in our current overculture? Because what we worship, we give worth to. The word worship means to give worth. It shows what we value. Because what we value, we protect, we preserve, we nurture, we foster, we celebrate. Can you feel the parts of you, maybe the feminine parts, that have longed and cried out for celebration, or at least for acknowledgement, at least to be okay? This work of divine feminine is about making these parts of ourselves not only okay, but actually worthy, worshipful, divine, sacred. We're trusting these parts. We're saying, oh, they have some wisdom. Yeah. So let's dive in because we don't have much time. The first one. Okay, all these divine feminine archetypes, as I said, they're ways to help us embody wisdom. Wisdom was a feminine archetype, right? Is a feminine archetype. Has been understood as feminine throughout human history. So we start with Mother Earth. Mother Earth isn't an archetype. I mean, she is the planet. We often give her, right, this gender and this identity. But we can also interact with her as a source metaphor because she literally gives life. She gives sustenance. She holds us. She supports us. Grounding energy is energy we all need to be held, to feel good, to bring our calling into this realm. So she supports us, she nurtures us, she loves us. And I think I mentioned it last week, opening yourself to the love, to the connection with Mother Earth can bring up a lot of ego grief. Yeah. It's like opening that heart, opening that door to a lot of big feelings about what we've done to the planet and all of the ways we are living out of alignment. This is just a bigger example of what happens to us when we open to our intuition, for example, in our bodies. It can be really scary. There can be a lot of grief, you know, like depending on your relationship with your body. But regardless of it, like we are in this culture, right, that devalues female bodies. So it's all connected here. I hope you can see that. We're talking about symbols, we're talking about archetypes, we're talking about metaphors. Okay. So that ego grief, though, I will say, it's like a combination of acceptance and getting to work. Yeah? If you open to grief like this, you know, I have to admit, like I have to get to work. There are things I have to do to bring myself into alignment, to bring culture into alignment. That can be really painful, like we said before. But I promise there is so much love waiting for you in this connection with Mother Earth. So here are some ways to awaken that connection. Number one, we have to live in right relationship with her. And our understanding of right relationship, our definition of right relationship, our access to right relationship is going to look different for everyone. And it's always evolving. So maybe you need to check in, like with your journal after this or now. Grounding first, putting a hand on the ground and saying, like, I want to channel you. I want to open to the lessons you have for me about living in right relationship. But here are some things you can consider. Paying native land tax, paying reparations to the indigenous people who lived upon the land before you. Yeah. Honoring the land spirits, honoring the earth in the lineage from which you came. So your ancestral lineage, if that's accessible to you, and if that's appropriate for the land upon which you live. Asking the spirits of the land, remember, metaphor, don't take it so freaking seriously. Asking the spirits of the land to make themselves known to you. Asking them to come to you in dreams, creating an altar for them. Asking before you pick a flower. Leaving something in return, like a piece of hair, or a song, or a prayer, or a thank you, or an acknowledgement. Making an offering to the land, the first harvest of your garden, giving it back to her, burying, burning, putting in the water as a sign of trust, as a sign of gratitude. Living as sustainably as possible. Knowing where your food comes from. Being in right relationship with the animals. Being in right relationship with farm workers. With every person in the chain that led from that food to you. And if this is overwhelming, start small. Start small. Find community, find support in this. Join your local Buy Nothing club and commit to a less consumerist lifestyle. Yeah, that's a big one. That one's up for me right now, I will say. All right. So living in right relationship with Mama Earth and actively worshiping her. Remember, worship means to give worth. I was taught as a child at a Christian school with basically a joke for a science class that it was sinful to worship creation, that we needed to worship the creator. And I mean, that was probably what I knew. Okay, the same for me. Because to me, it was like the worth, the love, the awe, it was all in nature. They were one and the same for me. So opening yourself to that if you've been closed to it before. Have the courage to spend entire days in nature. No electronics, no technology, no distractions. Yeah, if we all did this, I wonder what could change. And then earthing, walking barefoot upon the earth. We talked about this last week. Google it, earthing. It's awesome. Okay, that's Mama Earth. Not so graceful transition into the wisdom of our bodies, because the body is an extension of the earth. That's why sometimes when I say put your hand on your body, we're grounding just from the touch of our own bones, our own skin, our own fascia. Yeah, it's an extension. All life comes from the womb. All right, and as I said before, female bodies, really all non-male bodies, are devalued and desanctified. And they're made taboo. That's why we've been talking so much about the menstrual cycle. That's why I'm now apparently becoming a doula. Like, I can't get enough of the womb. It's very, very sacred. And honoring our divine feminine requires seeing ourselves, all of us, as divine. Yeah. It requires us to accept and love the parts of ourselves that we've cast into the shadows. It requires us to confront our body shame, to root it out in our environments, to challenge it where we see it, which of course includes menstrual shame, hormonal shame, energetic shaming. Shame because energetic shame is shame that our energy ebbs and flows and has a cyclical nature. Yeah. We all do this. We live in a patriarchal capitalist society. Don't beat yourself up. Give yourself compassion. And just as the womb is cyclical, our hormones are cyclical, our energy is cyclical, so is the moon. We can see this, right? Reflected in nature. It is natural. It is good. It is sacred. So what has been coming up for me around this lately has been, like I said, around birth. I listened to a fabulous podcast yesterday. My favorite podcast is the Belonging Podcast with Becca Piastrelli. I love her so much. And she interviewed Rochelle Garcia Saliga, I want to say is her name, who actually lives here in New Mexico. She's a midwife. And the most recent episode in February 2021 is about mothering the mothers and how people who give birth, they know what's up. They know what's up. And they start talking. They start complaining. They start saying, wait a second, I need a village. Where's my fucking village? And sometimes that gets pathologized as a postpartum mood disorder. Sometimes that gets stamped out because it's not convenient for the culture. Yeah. Because it would actually disrupt the status quo if we listen to people who had given birth and we fixed the system of isolation, of there being no support, no love, no help, no rest, hardly enough postpartum leave. Yeah, Claire says, preach. You know what I'm talking about. So it just really got to me. The episode made me quite emotional because I was like, this is what it is. Our intuition, especially the divine feminine part of our intuition, exists to nurture life, to make life thrive. So if we can all admit and agree we're here to partner in helping life thrive, it's what our evolution has been leading toward. It's what drives our pleasure. It's what drives our love. Then we have to listen to the freaking mothers who are on the front lines of bringing in the next generation of life on this planet. But of course, a culture such as ours would devalue that, would shame that, would pathologize that, would quiet that, because it's not convenient. In fact, it's got the very things in it that could bring down the current system. So, yeah, it made me very emotional. So let's listen to the divine feminine. Let's listen to our bodies. Let's listen to our intuition. Let's not just numb it or escape from it or say that, it's that time of the month. Also the inner autumn, very intuitive time, a great time for setting boundaries. We have these things within us. We know right from wrong. We know what's up. We got to start listening and acting on it, and things will get better for us when we do, and for culture as a whole. So to awaken your body's wisdom, invite whatever embodiment practice is in your lineage. Whatever embodiment practice speaks to you, it might change, it probably will. For many people, the entry portal is yoga. For many people here in the West. But inviting in other modalities can be helpful as well. Breath work, self-massage, working with healers. And as we've done here, and I do in my offerings, talking to the body and listening to its response. You can do this as you're self-massaging. You can do this in a body scan. You can do this with letter writing. And practicing somatic-based meditations. Extremely profound. So much wisdom in the body. I mean, I need to do a whole sermon. Okay. Moving on. The goddesses. So, yeah, a lot I could say here. I just reread The Goddess in Every Woman, which is amazing. Jean Shinoda Boleyn is the author, and she's a Jungian analyst, and she brings a feminist perspective. It's a bit dense at times, I will say. Read it with a grain of salt. Know that it's a little outdated. It really does put all the goddesses into the context of as a daughter, as a wife, as a mother, as a career woman. And that has value, right? Looking at the life cycle. But of course, you can't help but be like, is this just reproducing gender norms? But we really have to look at everything through this lens. So, goddess work. Ancient cultures had female gods, obviously. The book I'm talking about in particular, Goddesses in Every Woman, is based on the Greek goddesses. And there are 7 that it highlights and works with. And her argument is that these 7 goddesses can show up in all of us. And she's talking to women. So, but I would say everyone. Yeah. And she says that everyone has sort of a main goddess. And then the other goddesses can be called in, worked with for balance, for support in particular life contexts and situations. And I'm not going to get into all 7 of them, but it's a great way to bring this source metaphor, bring this divine feminine archetype in, is to study the goddesses. You can start with those 7 Greek ones. So that would be, let's see here. That would be Artemis, Athena, Hestia, Demeter, Persephone, Hera, and Aphrodite. And there are lots of quizzes. You can see which one resonates with you. You can do your own self-exploration. And there are goddesses in so many other cultures. So, I hate when things just get kind of boiled down to the Greek and the Roman. There are so many goddesses across all cultures, and a lot of them kind of correlate. It's really interesting. There are warrior goddesses, wild woman goddesses, wise woman goddesses, lover goddesses like Aphrodite. So you get the picture. They're like these pieces of our psyche that we can work with and call sacred. Yeah. It's pretty fun, actually. I've gotten quite into it. So, yeah, working with the goddesses. Some ways to activate your goddess wisdom within. You can wear a particular piece of jewelry that corresponds to your goddess. So it could be her stone or her crystal, or just something that makes you think of her when you meditate on her. You could build an altar to your goddess. So let's say if you're trying to cast a spell for fertility and you're manifesting a pregnancy, you might call on the goddess of Demeter, the mother goddess, and you might put symbols on your altar that speak to her, or cards on your altar that speak to this mother archetype as a whole. Yeah. You might want to study and uncover your own archetype a bit more, and just bring this into your practice and just be curious about it. You might wear a certain dress that feels like your goddess dress when you need to call in like the energy of Aphrodite. It's just a really fun and rewarding way to bring this divine feminine practice a little further. So there's other sort of archetypes in a woman's life, and these are Jungian in nature, and they're maiden, mother, crone, and then wild woman has been added. So we've talked about these in our cyclical sermons in the past. And if you join Will Manifest, my 4-week group coaching program, we go into it a lot further. But basically, the maiden symbolizes that inner spring, that vulnerable, tender space. The mother is the ruler of our summer, and she is like super fierce, protective, but so loving and passionate. And then there's the wild woman, who represents the inner autumn, that just chaotic, windy, winds of change, inner critic, but in a good way, kind of all over the place, creative energy. And then there's the crone, the Kaliak, the winter goddess. We did a whole sermon on her. And she is the elder goddess, or maybe your elder self, right? She's got like all the life experience, and she is just here to hold space and to share some of that wisdom with you when you're in your menstruation time, or when the moon is dark in the sky, or when the frost is outside on the earth, or anytime you need her, really. So these archetypes, I hope you can see, are useful. Oh, Micah, have you listened to the podcast, The Jungian Life? I've admitted I only listened to one episode, but I really liked it. I have not. I'll have to give that a listen. I'm in a TV deprivation right now, so I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. And that sounds right up my alley. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Beautiful. Any questions about archetypes, do drop them in the chat. Or any ideas that are percolating, like how do you see yourself working with some of these archetypes? Yeah, don't take it seriously. Really have fun with it, and just, play. It's all in that spirit, right? Of play, experimentation, and just why not? So the last one we're going to talk about tonight is the Muse. And I love working with the Muse. You might have your own muse. You might see her as very individual to a particular creative project. Or you might kind of just tap into this creatrix, the great creator, the great muse energy. Yeah. So she is really the embodiment of that creative wellspring that is limitless. It's sort of this idea that it will never run dry. There's always more to be tapped. There is an abundance of creative potential in the universe and in you, right? Because we contain the divine. We are divine. So making her external, though, can be really helpful, and I'll tell you why. So the Muse is an invitation to set really strong boundaries and to create a structure that she comes into, and she blesses us with inspiration, with this creative power, okay? So you can think of it, if you've ever taken The Artist's Way, or if you've read Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about, what's good for your art is also good for you. So it's this idea that we don't have to burn out as artists. We don't have to deprive ourselves of inspiration. All we have to do is show up every day and in a healthy way that cares for ourselves. And the muse will bless us with this creative potential. Because what she needs is time, space, and energy. So she needs us to devote a little bit of time every day, every week, every month to our creative pursuits. She needs us to give space, to have a regular self-care devotion practice. And, she needs us at our best. So it's really the idea that we say in the artist's way, there's an artist prayer, and it says, I'll take care of the quantity, you take care of the quality. And that is talking to the goddess, the great creator, or, the muse, really. It's saying, like, I'm going to show up at morning pages every day and write 3 pages. I'm going to show up for my artist day every week and feed that inspiration tank. I'm going to show up to my guitar lesson or to my songwriting block that I've scheduled for myself. And I don't do it just when I feel inspired, but I do it to invite inspiration. Yeah? You can also pull up an extra chair at your writing desk, pour an extra cup of tea, anything to kind of symbolize and ritualize this invitation. You could talk to your muse out loud, like, I am inviting you in. I would love to work with you. Yeah. And you can trust that your creative visions, your creative inspiration, your creative passions and desires are from Muse, which means they are good. They are bringing you into alignment. And the beautiful thing about Muse energy, to me, it's like the pinnacle, because we are being invited to bring something forth through the portal of our bodies, of our lives, to share with the world, to help, again, steer the world, steer society into a greater sense of ease, flow, and alignment. And Muse is inviting us to partner on that journey. It's like really profound, and it requires a lot of self-care, a lot of boundaries, a lot of openness and trust. Yeah. Let's check in here. Claire, I don't understand inner spring, the tenderness. What don't you understand? So inner spring is a tender time. So in the menstrual cycle, it's just after our bleed. So we're emerging back into the world. We've said before, we leave the period cave, that safe, dark womb space, and we're like dipping a toe back into society. So we're a little bit vulnerable. We're a little bit exposed. We're a little bit naked feeling. And in the cycle, it's the time of kind of tenderly nurturing those seeds that we've planted. They're just starting to shoot up, to spring forth. And it's tenuous, the inner critic is definitely going to be there a little bit in the inner spring. So we need to make sure that we're both putting ourselves out there, but not too soon. We don't want to expend all of our good winter store too quickly. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, the Maiden, who rules our inner spring, she is associated with our inner child. She's just been reborn at that pinnacle of menstruation. She's just been reborn. So she's young, she's vulnerable, she needs protection, but she also needs to find her own way. And it's sometimes finding that balance, isn't it? That can be challenging and exciting. And the other question, what is the best inner season for purging and organizing? Oh, honey, definitely autumn. So without a doubt, you get a nice dose of progesterone post ovulation, because your womb is like trying to nurture this new fetus, and before it realizes there isn't a fetus, it will just give you lots of progesterone. That is the adulting hormone. That is like the get shit done, cross everything off the list. And if you're seeing clutter, it is saying edit, edit, edit. So whether that's stuff in your house, whether that's an inner order that needs to be brought about, or a relationship that needs to be cut off, a boundary that needs to be set, a novel you've written that needs editing, that's inner autumn. That's the time traditionally we would say. But listen to your intuition, track your cycle every day, and notice when you're feeling it, because when you're feeling it is when you should do it. That's the big red rule. All right. I'm wondering, what's one way you're going to take this sermon forward into your life this week? What's one archetype you're most excited to activate? And how are you going to do it? I definitely noticed in planning this sermon that I want to return to my Mama Earth connection. It's one I have to really be reminded to tend to, especially in the winter, right? Because I'm not earthing as much. I'm not lying on the earth as much. And so finding ritual ways to tend to that relationship is most important right now for me. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, beautiful. And I just realized I had this like beautiful candle here. It smells like roses, and I forgot to light it. So I do apologize. If you lit your candle though, I will say that was also for me, and we thank you. All right, dear ones. Let's do a check out, shall we? Let's check back out by tuning in one last time before we close into the body. Maybe tapping the feet on the earth. Feeling that animism, that support, that resource, that grounding energy in the body as well. Maybe tapping on your thighs, just kind of waking up that connection. Hello. Hello, body. I see you. I feel you. I hear you. I'm here. Thank you. Thank you, body. Thank you, earth. And the parts within, the parts without, the goddesses, the inner child parts, the inner parent parts, the crone, the maiden, the mother, the wild woman. Thank you. Thank you for waiting in the wings when I call you forth, for your unique medicine, your unique challenges that help me evolve on this human journey. Maybe bowing to them, honoring them. If that's too woo-woo for you, can you just bow to the parts of yourself? Recommitting to listening, to noticing, most of all to trusting every part of you belongs. Yeah, it's good to remind ourselves of this. Every part of me belongs. Every part belongs. Yeah. When you're ready coming back, noticing your space again. You know, this wheel of life just turns and turns, doesn't it? I attended a virtual funeral today for my great uncle. It's like the second virtual funeral I attended this year. Life is a mystery. Life is a mystery. And in my view, the greatest service we can pay life, pay back this mystery, is to pay attention. It's really the only payment it asks for. And when we ride those waves, we are so blessed. We are so blessed. I'm here for you, beautiful souls. I would love to have a coaching session with you. I would love to have you in Womanifest. It is a fest for sure. We are diving into all things divine feminine, goddesses, cyclical wisdom, archetypes, seasonality, so much more to be uncovered there. And please share self-love sermons with a friend. I would love to see our community grow. Claire says, I'm packing up, purging my classroom and shedding all the clutter that scarcity mindset has caused me to keep for years. What a celebration! Yes, I'm so proud of you. Oh, yeah. Lean into that abundance of like space and light and air that purging can really give us. Oh, so good to be with you all again. Thank you for honoring this work. Big love. Bye.